Now, this is going to be the TMNT and other strangeness portion of the stream. Oh, I thought it was you, Puzzle, but I wasn't sure.
Oh, yep, it's me. Well, welcome on in again. I'm very, very excited for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles RPG and Other Strangeness. That was going to be my backup puzzle. But yep, this one. This is
Yeah, the second part of the
so
stream is
cool
going to be all
looking.
about the 1980s Palladium published TMNT and Other Strangeness tabletop role-playing game. All right. This was first published by Palladium in 1985. It says that the system is compatible with Heroes Unlimited, Ninjas and Super Spies, and other Palladium RPGs. Now, I think the date is very important, mentioning the date, because this came out in 85. The first Turtles book came out in 1984, so the TMNT only existed for 1 year prior to the publishing of this book, which I think is astonishing to see how popular it was, the dent it made in pop culture in 1 year, so that it gets a role-playing game. And because it was 1985, there won't be any cartoon references. There won't be anything about Rocksteady and Bebop or Toka and Razor or the Punk Frogs. Now, like a lot of RPGs, this book came with supplements. There was TMNT Adventures in June 86, something called After the Bomb, also in 86, TMNT Guide to the Universe, May 87, Transdimensional TMNT, April 1989, Truckin' Turtles, November 89. So they were getting multiple supplements like in the same year. And Turtles Go Hollywood, March of 1990. There was talk about a second edition, but ironically, the founder of Palladium Publishing said that it was the success of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that killed that possibility. The Turtles, in their late 80s and 90s kid-friendly format, killed that hard, edgy vibe which the Mirage Turtles and this book were portraying. Sales slumped, and so there was no second edition. All the kids who loved it before it was cool fell off. But this got me supposing, I bet if there had been something like an Archie TMNT RPG, something in collaboration with Playmates, it probably could have taken off again and increased those sale numbers, attracting a slightly different and younger demographic. Now, fast forward to 2023, and Palladium is actually finally putting out another edition. It was a Kickstarter project that I backed, and they're going to update the original book with additional material and additional art from Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. So they're involved on this project. I was hoping, according to their timeline, to have the book ready here to show you guys, but there were some delays. Now they're
And a
almost
Kickstarter project?
done. Yeah. I mean, buyer
Oh, hi,
beware.
Grim Viper.
Oh, hello. Now they're almost done. Like they have some alternate covers. Here's the reprints, the updates, the variant covers, a DM screen, and everything else that's coming out with the reprint.
Those look like dice.
Yep. Yep, you can get custom dice in different colors.
Donnie.
Yep, green and purple. But they're also reprinting some of the supplemental material and an updated mutant animal list. Now, what I noticed, or I mentioned, one of the supplements to the
Hmm.
original TMNT book was called After the Bomb. After the Bomb was an official TMNT spinoff, but somehow After the Bomb just became really, really popular. It grew and became more fleshed out, and suddenly it became its own thing. After the Bomb was a supplement that started getting its own supplements. Like there's After the Bomb, Roadhogs, Mutants Down Under, Mutants of the Yucatan, Mutants of Avalon, Mutants in Orbit. And in the year 2000, when the rights expired for Palladium to produce anything TMNT related, they rewrote and republished After the Bomb to remove any specific Turtles references.
Oh, well, some of those characters, some of the vehicles, they look a little familiar. Definitely those guys with the visors. I'm very excited. If anybody heard, that's Darby, and I did give him a treat when you uh, tur- turned in that treat points.
Oh, yep, I hear him.
I think there's a male person, which is like the only time he barks.
Now, in the introduction paragraph of the book, it mentions animal characters in comic books. It actually mentions Suribus the Aardvark. In TMNT Out of the Shadows, the PC game I'll be playing on Saturday, when confronted with this Cerberus mouser, Michelangelo says Cerberus, but it doesn't look like an aardvark. Cerberus the Aardvark was an independently published comic book, much like TMNT, and even would eventually cross over and guest star in the TMNT universe. And by the way, the spelling is different. It's Suribus, not Cerberus. I will make that mistake again. Now, before we get into character creation and how to play, I want to go over a few really astonishing things that I discovered when I was reading and researching this book. I don't use that word lightly. I'm going to bring some information to light, some information about some commonly held truths and myths about the turtles. Now, the original Mirage comics were very dark, edgy, grim, violent, bloody. And when the Fred Wolf 1987 cartoon came out, there were a few changes made to help soften that image. All the turtles got different colored bandanas. They got their personalities. They were very kid friendly. Donnie was the smart one, Mikey was the fun one, and so on. Their personalities were not very well established, like until then. But I'm here to say that's not true. The turtles were created in 1984. The RPG book came out in 85. Cartoon production started in 86. So the plans of giving the turtles the personalities that we know of, they weren't seen in the comics because the comics only had 4 issues out before this book came out, which means this plan to make Donnie the smart one, Mikey the fun one, was started and laid. There was the groundwork placed for it long before the 80s cartoon. Like right here, we can see in Donnie's personality profile from the book. He's a pacifist ninja, and he loves gadgets and technology. This is also where we see the tall, thin, lanky, skinny Donatello, and where that was first established. Donatello is officially the tallest turtle at 5 feet. Just like you've seen Donnie portrayed in like the Out of the Shadows game or the 2013 Nickelodeon series. Tall, thin, that's Donnie. And for other reference, Leo is 4'9", Mikey is 4'8", and Raph is 4'6". He really is the Wolverine of the team. Now, when Mikey was very food obsessed in the 2012 TMNT Nickelodeon, he was the main cook in the pilot episode. That character trait was first established here. Not he's not the super ultra pizza crazed one, like just because of the cartoon. It started here, despite going through this entire RPG book and not finding the word pizza mentioned once. Mikey is the foodie. Now, just a couple days ago, I was part of a watch party that watched TMNT2 Secret of the Ooze. Was anyone else here there? Mikey is the one that
I
steps
was.
up. Yep. Well, I've got an idea. He comes up with the plan of how to get them to eat the retromutagen. Whoever wrote the screenplay might have also read this book. And in the Out of the Shadows game, Mikey has a very long monologue all about the different pizza types. They all love pizza, but Mikey's the one with the big speech. And even though I searched through more than 100 pages of this book, I control F, I read, I couldn't find the word pizza. So I'm not sure where that trait actually first appeared. It wasn't in the comics yet, wasn't in this. It might have been the 87 cartoon.
Mhm.
Whoops, wrong one. There. Here, looking at Leonardo's profile, there in the next to last paragraph, Leonardo feels a loss of face whenever the other turtles do something wrong. He feels responsible for them and their actions. Of course, because of this, he goes nuts over Raphael's rages and craziness. So that personality clash with Raphael started here. Uh, in the Mirage comics that were out at that time, there was just so few of them. There wasn't enough time to give everyone their own development or to really showcase their personalities. This was long before the 1990 movie, and that rivalry wasn't really shown in the cartoon. But that clash, like the one that we see probably most prominently in the 2007 CG cartoon where Raph becomes Night Watcher and they have that big fight on the rooftop.
Spoilers. No, I'm just kidding.
That attitude, that clash started here with the 85 RPG book. Let's see, and I would like to show something. Oh, it's not sliding anymore. Okay,
The details, I can see a bit of an evolution of how the comics drew him. Are these specific to the RPG, these pictures?
these are the drawings from the RPG book, and we can see like artwork like this is definitely reused elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the title screen of the 80s cartoon, we usually see the title screen and then like Leonardo's posed exactly like this on the title screen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can't get the picture to scroll. I don't know why. Hmm. Oh, there we go. I don't know why that worked.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
We can see a lot of the skills that they attribute to Leonardo. Study, popular fiction, carpentry, drawing. He's an artist. Scholastic skills, military science, history of Japan, history of war. He's a great big history nerd.
Just like in the third movie.
Hmm. Like at the beginning of the third movie, when April comes by and shows off all the stuff she got from an antique dealer, like she brings Leonardo a great big book on ancient Japanese swords, and he is just giddy. His eyes light up when she hands it to him. Leo is perhaps the smartest of the turtles, at least in all around intelligence. He's a voracious reader and has a very good memory. And that moment in TMNT 3 is very quick. Blink and you'll miss it, but it's a great big show, don't tell moment for Leonardo's development. Personally, I think Leonardo suffers from an underdevelopment of character in many different iterations. His detachment, that personal responsibility, make him seem very one-dimensional at a lot of the time. So it's really nice to see, just in his skill descriptions, the kind of things Leo would love to do in his spare time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it rounds out the character a little bit more. Oh, hold on.
And Raphael. The personality profile mentions a berserker rage that Raphael suffers from, further reinforcing what I just said before. He really is the team's Wolverine. And in the final paragraph, as a fighter, Raphael is neither the most skillful or the most talented, but he is the most deadly because of his raw energy. It confesses that Leonardo is the most disciplined, while Michelangelo is the most talented. It's just something that I've privately believed, that Michelangelo has always been Splinter's second best student, which is also why, well, spoilers for the Battle Nexus. So this here study of the turtles, this is a lot of information from this book, which I and probably a lot of us all assumed came later, much later. I submit that this book was a series Bible. It foreshadows so many things. This book is like a divergent timeline. When this book came out, there were only 4 issues. And all the stuff that's in there. Like, this book is filled with so many ideas that Eastman and Laird just did not have the time to pursue because they were working on the toy line, the cartoon, their own other further issues. But this, this is a series Bible. This foreshadows so much stuff to come later. Now, for example, there's stat blocks and personality profiles for a bunch of different original characters we have not seen anywhere else. Like Fred Hamster or Caesar's Weasels. And there's a group of 4 mutated bears called the Terror Bears. Each bear has a name and a theme. Starting from the top and going clockwise, there's Pain Bear, Fear Bear, Doom Bear, and Nightmare Bear. The creature on the left is Fred Hamster. He's a mutated hamster that was deliberately mutated by an oil company to dig for oil. He overheard that he was going to be destroyed when the new model came out, so he escaped, trashed the rig, stole a bunch of money, a company truck, and now he's on the run. There's so much detail poured into these characters that I can't believe that they didn't have further plans for them. And I don't know why we haven't seen Fred Hamster again after this book. The other picture is a weasel, one of 3 weasel henchmen to a mutant Wolverine named Caesar. And I'm working off of a script because there's so much I wanted to say, and I'm also getting ahead of myself saying what I said later. You can't put this much superficial work into these characters without having much, much larger, grander ideas and plans for them. Oh, there we go. Does this look familiar to anyone? This character? Now, TMNT and Other Strangeness is actually a spin-off of another series called Heroes Unlimited from Palladium. This is a picture from Heroes Unlimited about a possible mutant character that you could create. This primitive looking mutant alligator, ripped up denim jeans and a vest. And this was made in '85, years before the cartoon, years before we ever got our first official look at Leatherhead. And you can see the artist's signature down in the right by the foot. Peter Laird. Peter Laird worked on the art for Heroes Unlimited. So, which brings up an interesting question. Who's the original Leatherhead? The original Leatherhead we saw in the comics and some of the later cartoons, Leatherhead was a scientist, not some, I guess, bayou-dwelling gator. But this does not look like the science character we were first introduced to later. Yeah, just without the hat or the shotgun. So I was surprised to see like the roots of Leatherhead didn't even start in the TMNT book, but they started in Heroes Unlimited. Now, one of the skills you can have in this book when you're creating a mutated character, you can be psychic and have psionic powers and be able to talk to people long distances or just mind attack people. One of the skills you can be if you're psychic is animal control and animal speech. Maybe I'm being super nitpicky, but I think the person typing this up had a Freudian slip. This is a paragraph describing the psionic power set. For just a few bio-E points spent at the moment of character creation, you can give your character two-way animal speech. Who do we know in the TMNT verse that has two-way animal speech? The example here they use is with rats. I think the highlighted word was meant to be kind, K-I-N-D, but instead they were talking about a rat king. This book came out in '85. The Rat King did not make his first official comic debut until '88. By that time, he had already been in the '87 cartoon. And then the NES video game came out in '89. There was that Rat King colored character with the boomerang. So it's very possible the boomerang enemy used the Rat King color palette inspired by the cartoon, but not this. Like they were clearly thinking about the Rat King years before his first official appearance. Now, here's where things start to get really, really weird. Now, you can't see it because I don't have a webcam, but I've got a cork board with some pictures, yarn, and some thumbtacks. I think this is a near universal experience. When we first played the '89 NES game, we saw all these weird enemies and creatures that we had never seen before. Many of us probably asked ourselves, where did these enemy designs come from? Well, I think I found an answer to that. Someone, somewhere, gave Konami a copy of the RPG book. Konami was just a voracious gatherer of information and wanted to get their hands on all the concept art they could, as much as they could, so they could build a game out of it. So they got their hands on the RPG book and Heroes Unlimited. Since Eastman and Laird did a lot of artwork for that source book too, Konami didn't distinguish any kind of difference between them. Oh, it's all Eastman and Laird artwork. We'll work with that. So artwork and enemies from the RPG book ended up in the first NES game. Yeah, Mutant Porcupine from the RPG book, Mutant Porcupine in the NES game. Now, here's some guy just covered in fire. Here's some guy just covered in fire. Now, a guy covered in fire, that's not that's not specific enough. That could just be a coincidence. Here, look at this weird robot guy with a head that has wings attached to it. Oh, look at this robot guy with a weird head that has wings attached to it. Hmm. Oh, look at this weird robot walker. Oh, hey, look at this weird robot walker. And if you look closely enough at like the front design, it's very specific. Now, all of this could just be coincidental. Maybe I'm grasping at straws. But now, take a look at this guy. We all know this guy. We all hate this guy. The one in the center, not the corner. Jetpack Spaceman Laser Pistol Guy. Jetpack Laser Gun Spaceman Guy. I mean, 1, 2, 3 is a coincidence. I mean, or 1 might be an accident, 2 is a coincidence, 3 is a pattern, and I've just shown 5. Like, Konami had to have been looking at this RPG book. And you know what makes me say that? They have a history of doing that. In the Simpsons arcade game, also made by Konami, they must have gotten some very early concept art of Marge Simpson, and they included that into the Simpsons beat 'em up game. Early on, Matt Groening, when he created the Simpsons, he had this other comic strip all about bunnies. It was called Life in Hell. And from the start of the Simpsons, there was a secret. Marge was going to be a secret bunny. She just hides her ears in her hair. And whenever she gets electrocuted in the game, you can see those bunny ears right there. So Konami just has a pattern of grabbing all the concept art they can and throwing it in the game. Now, something else I learned, something else I want to talk about is the Shredder. I've heard Shredder wasn't even supposed to be the Turtles' main villain. He was introduced in the first comic and killed off. He was just supposed to be a one-off. Well, then why was he included in the 85 book, RPG book? His presumed death took place after a ferocious rooftop battle. Saki was stabbed in the chest, fell off the side of a building, held a live thermite grenade. No body was found, although it must be said the turtles didn't look too hard to find it, assuming their enemy had been blown to bits. I heard it wasn't until the cartoon that he became their arch enemy. Well, they clearly had much longer plans for Shredder. Now, Shredder first appeared in the very first issue in '84. This book came out in '85 with a complete Shredder stat block. Excuse me. Shredder's second Mirage Comics appearance was in December of '86. So they definitely planned to bring him back, but they didn't actually do it until a year later. The cartoon was already in pre-production by that time. But Eastman and Laird definitely had much more longer-term plans for the Shredder. All right. That brings me to character creation. And sounds like we just lost Puzzle. She just dropped. Oh, I have to go. Mm. Have a great rest of the stream. Mm. All right. Originally, she was going to be here and roll up a character with me, so we'll just have to do it in our imagination. Now, I'm going to do this a little out of order because this game loves randomization. Your stats, your attributes, your origin, your species can all be randomized. That might help for replayability. It may be interesting to see what kind of mutant animal you get randomly and see what you, as the player, can manage to do with it. Hey, I rated the Technodrome as a hyper intelligent psychic chihuahua. That's probably not going to be many people's first choices, but it does certainly make for an awesome story. Is it fun? Sometimes. Other times you might just want to make some original characters. This session, I wanted to make some OCs. I'd say that the book has a great system for generating characters more than it does carefully crafting, creating, or sculpting one. Now, if you look at the top left of the character sheet, it says mutant animal. TMNT and Other Strangeness is compatible with Heroes Unlimited. If you look at the Heroes Unlimited core book, there's all sorts of superheroes, robots, and mutants. This book uses many of the same rules as Heroes Unlimited for creating a mutant animal. Like they both use the same bioenergy or bio-E point system. Now, a note about randomization. Like I said, they love randomizing. They even have several paragraphs dedicated to this rationale, why they like randomization, because it represents the real world. Because not everything is predictable, but uh, I like having a little bit more of a say in my own character design rather than just luck. All right, at the top of the character sheet, name. This is self-explanatory. This may be the one category in the book that doesn't actually have a D100 table for you to roll for. If you really, really want to, you could go to a bookstore, get one of those baby name books, and then roll for a page number and roll for a name on that page. Animal. What animal are you? Looking at the book, there's a whole table and then tables within tables. Oh, you rolled a cat. Okay, what type of cat? Oh, you rolled a bird. Oh, here's several different types of birds. But they have tables for determining your animal. Are you urban? Are you rural? Are you wild? Are you from a zoo? And once you roll that with a D100 or percentile dice, you can randomly determine what specific animal you are from the urban table, the wild table, or the zoo table. Rocksteady, Bebop, Toka, and Razor, they all came from a zoo. Or, just for the sake of this character creation's moment, I would just let you pick whatever you want as the GM, GM's discretion. Now, looking through that list, I found what I consider to be a pretty big oversight. You have some pre-built stat blocks for each of the turtles, for Splinter, Fred Hamster, the Terror Bears, a few other animals, but there's no stat block for humans. There's no easy way to create a human, even though there are pre-built stat blocks for April, Baxter, Casey, and Shredder. Now, how you mutate and the extent of your mutations in this book is partially determined by your size. Out of all the animals in the list and the tables, I found the one to most resemble a human to be the ape. And your size would bring you somewhere between size 9 or size 11. Occupation. It's interesting that this game considers your character's occupation. Not every character would even have an occupation, like if you were literally born yesterday or newly mutated. You're not just an adventurer that meets in a tavern. You could consider some sort of livelihood to give your character a little more depth. Once upon a time, I wanted to make my own RPG system, and this was part of my character creation sheet, some way to explain your character's livelihood, a way to tie them into part of the world. Okay, now there's an alignment category, which is just like the lawful, good, evil, the 3x3 grid. That's present in this game, but in a slightly different form, a mutated form. There's alignments that fall into good, selfish, and evil. Good characters can be principled, like April O'Neil, scrupulous, like Leonardo, Donatello, and Michelangelo. Selfish characters can be unprincipled, like Fred Hamster, anarchist, like Raphael. Evil characters can be miscreants, like the Shredder, aberrant, like Casey Jones, or diabolic, like Baxter. This game is against anything neutral because if you're going to be in the world of the Ninja Turtles, fighting crime or taking over the world, there's no real neutral way to do that. And the game provides guidance. This is the principled list, guidance about what exactly it means to be that alignment, a list of things that you would or would not do. Now, cause of mutation. How are you mutated? Again, there's a D100 table allowing you to choose from a random mutation, some sort of accidental exposure to some strange stuff or a chemical, and a third choice, some sort of deliberate experimentation like Rocket Raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy. And within those tables, there are even more tables to assign origins, like a research facility, an industrial facility, a military organization, a secret military organization, some criminal empire, or a crime fighting organization. Yeah, these tables are good tools for brainstorming or great for a GM to randomly generate characters. But for the sake of creative exercise, I would just leave that story up to the player. And within your origin, that also determines your education. And education determines how many secondary skills you get. Like there is a wild animal education table. Like, were you a rat that carefully observed your owner practicing ninjutsu? Did you grow up in the wild? Do you know how to drive a car? How or why? And if you were a deliberate experimentation, you get a totally separate education table to choose from. But the education table is one of the most important sections for determining the details of your character, like all of your secondary skills, starting cash, equipment, general disposition. Do you trust humans? Do you trust society? Are you literate? What level of literacy? Are you something like a local cryptid or something like Frankenstein's creature just living out in the wild? Maybe you only have one or two trusted human friends. There's also a section for being public, being out, and you have attended 4 years of university. And the more education you have, the more skills you have the chance of picking. Let's see, where am I? I lost my place. Interestingly, when you look at the range of numbers for the different education values, there are 4 different levels of education, but the range is different for each. There's a difference of 20, difference of 20, difference of 50, and a difference of 10. You only have a 10% chance to naturally fall into the highest education level. Again, I don't like the randomness, so I would just let the people choose what they want as long as it fits their character. Now, character's size. Size is one of the bigger decisions you'll make for your character. Creating a character, each animal has a bioenergy point system. You will spend bio-E points to make changes in your character, mutations to your character. Certain mutations like height, legs, psychic powers, a second set of arms, and how close you come to human each requires more and more points. Larger animals, like an elephant, start with a smaller to even non existent pool of points to pick from. All animals have a size, and if you're an elephant, you can reduce your size by one. Elephants start at level 20, and for every step they go down in size, they gain 5 more points of bioenergy to choose to mutate into something else. So if you wanted to make an elephant that shrunk down to human size, like somewhere between 9 and 11, you're going to have 50 bio-E points to play with after that. And then you can become bipedal or develop human speech, psychic powers, or a prehensile trunk. When you look at the elephant stat block, it shows you a lot of what the options are available. Now, attributes. This was one of the most complicated sections for me to learn and to wrap my head around. Because when I looked at the stat blocks of Michelangelo and Donatello, it had IQ of this number, ME this number. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know if that was that high, was that low, what was the context around the numbers. It's not exactly like the D20 system of like strength, dex, con. You know what an 18 means if you're familiar with D&D, but what does an 18 mean here? I didn't know. Now, one of the things that makes this so complicated is that this stat is influenced by other things that you purchase, like PS, physical strength, which increases hand to hand combat damage. If one of your secondary skills is boxing, athletic, bodybuilding, that'll give you like a +2 to physical strength and another +2 and a +1. So once you establish this number, then you're going to have to modify it. When you're writing this down, make sure you have a pencil and paper. Now, it's not exactly like strength, dex, con, int, whiz, charisma, but there's a lot of overlap. IQ, it measures your intellect just like the intelligence stat, and it gives you a bonus to all of your skills. ME stands for mental endurance and is a save versus psionics, any sort of mental power. You need a minimum score of 12 before you can actually become psionic yourself. MA is mental affinity. It's a bit of an odd name, I thought, and this works more like charisma. PS, physical strength, hand to hand damage. It also changes how much you can carry and lift. PP, try not to giggle, is physical prowess. That's a lot like Dex. Gives bonus to dodge, parry, strike, ninja stuff. PE is physical endurance, like Constitution, affecting resistances to fatigue and disease, how long you can fight at max carry weight before you just tire out, how much you can drag, saves versus coma, death, and toxins, just like Constitution. PB is physical beauty. It seems weird that they have two different charisma based skills, but bonuses to charm and impress. And speed determines how fast you can move, as well as giving bonuses to dodge. Generating all of these numbers, when you roll for them, you roll 3d6, which could be a maximum of 18 to start with. And if you actually happen to break 16, sort of like critting during character creation, then you get to roll an additional d6. Like other systems like D&D and Pathfinder, they have other methods of creation like the standard array, where you have a 15, a 14, a 13, 12, 10, and an 8, and you just place those where you want. Or you roll 4d6 and you remove the lowest, sort of like rolling with advantage. Sometimes they just give you 8 in all skills, and then you have 27 points to apply around. Yeah, having a little bit of D&D knowledge actually might have hurt my understanding in certain ways, or helped it in certain other ways. And even though they had that whole randomness rationalization paragraph, how they really emphasize randomness, I'm surprised that they did not offer an alternative. They didn't offer a point buy system, or they didn't offer their own version of the standard array. Now, as I was writing this, as I was reading this and trying to come up with a system, I thought it might be fair to give yourself your own standard array. Start with 2 exceptional abilities, 2 high abilities, and 3 attributes. Yeah, GM's discretion, so I say it's okay. So start with a 16, 16, 15, 15, 14, 13, 12, and place them where you want. That way you're not at the victim of luck or misfortune. I want to play some super duper hyper intelligence character, but oh, I rolled a 4 for my intelligence. That just seems like needless frustration. All right, well, I am going through this a lot faster. I was expecting to have I was expecting to talk about this with puzzle at the same time. All right, here's the psychic points, or the psionic section, where you can give yourself psychic powers: animal control, animal speech, detect psionics, hypnotic suggestion, mind trap, mind block. The book goes into much greater detail about what these skills are and how to use them. And they cost a lot of points to purchase. Like the elephant, which started with 0 points, and if you wanted to shrink the elephant down to human size, you could get 50 points to play with. And you need those points to determine, are you bipedal? Can you talk? Or maybe you're just psychic. Can you control elephants? Yeah, bio E point budgeting uh, is something to consider. Yeah, psionics is the closest thing this game has to magic. Although, since this is a spin-off of Heroes Unlimited, Heroes Unlimited has magic. If you get the Heroes Unlimited core book, you could probably figure out a way to make yourself magic or incorporate magic into the game. All right. Now we are coming up on the last bit, combat. How does combat work in this game? The combat was also incredibly difficult for me to get my head around, because it's not just like rolling a d20 versus someone's armor class. Now, I found another strange oversight in this book, specifically skills. What are skills like boxing, tightrope walking, lockpicking? This book never actually explains what a skill is, or a skill challenge. How do you make a skill check? Well, when you purchase a skill from the skill, uh, I don't know, the skill table, like, oh, I'm going to pick lockpicking, you will get a percentage score. and the percentage, like if you have 97% lockpicks, you roll a D100 and you have to roll under that 97 in order to succeed. So you have a 97% chance of success. But nowhere in the book does it actually explain that. Nowhere in Heroes Unlimited does it actually explain that. So you really need to have somebody who already knows and have someone read you into it, have someone initiate you into the game. And I went on YouTube videos of people exploring the book, and they couldn't find it either. So I'm glad it wasn't just me who couldn't find it. It really is just not in the book. All right, skills, psionic. Okay, combat. Almost done. Combat isn't exactly complicated, but it's alien. It's different. The first thing everybody does in combat is roll initiative. Initiative's going to be re-rolled and re-established after every round. All right, everybody has a number of attacks based on their level of fighting, whatever type of fighting they have, either martial arts, hand-to-hand, basic, ninjas. You have a number of attacks. And you can use those attacks to attack, or if you're on the receiving end of an attack, if you have 5 attacks, you can spend one of those attacks defensively and parry, dodge, or entangle your opponent. Entangle is this game's version of grappling. You can to actively defend. You can roll a d20 and you need to beat your attacker's roll. If you're attacking, you can pick from a number of different attacks. You can use a weapon attack. And if you're like a turtle with 2 weapons, like 2 sais, 2 swords, you can use both weapons at once. But if you hold back and only use one weapon at a time, you can reserve one action to parry. So it's nice to have 2 weapons. You can kick, throw, jump kick, or do a flying attack. Jump kick and flying attack deal double damage, just like TMNT 2 for the NES Japanese version. The jump kick does double damage if they hit, but they have to be used first, and you can't attack anymore that round. But you can still use the remaining number of attacks for dodging and parrying. So when you roll the attack, you roll a d20, and you have to beat a certain threshold. 4 and below, just straight up miss. If you roll above a 4, you might hit. If you roll above a 4, but not above the target's armor class, which is determined by animal, size, what you're wearing, attributes, and skills, you'll just hit your target's armor, and you'll deal damage to the armor. Your armor has its own stat, SDC, Structural Damage Capacity. That's the durability of your armor. Some of the animals, like if you're a rhinoceros, you will have some built-in SDC armor. But once your armor points are gone, then you can start dealing damage directly to someone's hit points. Or if you actually hit someone's armor, if you roll higher than someone's armor class, then you can deal damage to their hit points directly. Let's see, if I pull up the size chart again, it'll show that as you grow bigger in size, you can get SDC just based on your size. So you can be a frog who doesn't have any SDC normally, but if you grow to humongous size, then you have a lot of built-in armor. Other characters, if you just don't have the SDC, you can go to the items list and see if you can arrange chainmail or a ballistic vest. Now, again, based on GM's discretion, house rules, whatnot, your creativity, starting cash, mutation, looking through the items list, you can pick your weapons, your proficiencies, armor, personal items. Like a lot of this is just tables and information. This is a reference book, after all. It's not exactly meant to be read cover to cover in a row. Yeah, yeah. I think that wraps this up. The character creation section and basics on how to fight. This is a general overview of TMNT and Other Strangeness, tabletop role-playing game book, covering the really neat things I discovered while I was researching it, like where did the NES character monsters come from. Hopefully this has inspired a few people to give this book a look, or maybe check out the Palladium reprint that should be coming out any week now. I hope this could serve as a primer for Shellathon 4, where people could go back, look at this, or ask me specific questions. And hopefully Shellathon 4, we could get a team together and actually run an adventure or two. I would love to do that. I will DM, I will write, if nobody else really wants to. If you want to know anything more about the book, I am easy to find on Blue Sky or Twitch. I mean, you could probably find me on Discord, several Discords, like Shellathon Discord or Shellanomics Discord. And now, gosh, I finished a lot earlier than I thought I would. I've got 12 minutes to kill. Is there anything anybody would like to know? Anything further to look at? Coming up, we'll be raiding out into Classic Spirit for some Turtles in Time. All right, hit me up if you ever want to know more. If there's something you didn't feel I covered very well, I know there was plenty. I'm not hard to find, and I hope everyone has a very happy Shellathon. Now, I'll be right back before... I'll figure out something to do for the last 10 minutes. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Now, let's see, who are we raiding into? Spirit. All right, whenever they're up, we can raid right into them. I just don't want to do dead air. I could give a sneak preview of what I'm going to be doing Saturday. Saturday, midnight shift, I'm going to be playing, hopefully, with Puzzle Better. some TMNT Out of the Shadows, another lesser known TMNT game. And we're going to be trying the arcade game. This game, TMNT Out of the Shadows, really was a great game, went under the radar, maligned in the press, and it is my favorite game, my favorite Turtles game. Yeah, I'm here with you guys, watching all the memories and sharing the love of the NES games, the arcade games, SNES games, Tournament Fighters, all the different Turtles games. So when I say Out of the Shadows is my favorite, it is in competition with Turtles in Time and all those other classics we grew up with. And the game itself comes with its own story mode, which could be played co-op. It also has a side-scrolling beat 'em up arcade game, kind of like the ones we all grew up playing. And we've done the solo mode, or we've done the story mode before on stream. And Shellanomics, Mikey, we've seen him play through it. And somebody did it in Shellathon 1 as well. Puzzle and I did it in Shellathon 2. But for Shellathon 3, we're going to attempt to do the arcade mode, which is an entirely separate game mode. And the final boss is a little bit different. Grim Viper, yes. There, it started capturing. Okay, good. I was worried for a second. Now, Puzzle Better and I already practiced the arcade game a little bit, and we had trouble getting through the Cerberus monster. Not the Cerberus monster, or Cerebus Mouser. Oh, Pixel Pond, hello, good morning. Why is everyone coming in right at the end? So we're going to try the arcade mode, but if we can't do that, we might just play the single-player mode with different characters. Last year, Puzzle Better and I went through with Donnie. She was Donnie, I was Mike. But next time we might play through as Leo and Raph, who did not get a lot of showtime last Shellathon. We'll be playing against types. Well, because I just finished a contract signing, this is the first chance I've had to get back to my desk. I want to hear all about that momentarily, like right before I raid out in 5 minutes. Or right after I raid out. So for 5 minutes, I could show off the challenge or survival mode.
Oh, yeah! Smoke bombs! Awesome! Woo! Yes!
I think I need a bit more of a warm up. Round 1. Oh, it gave me objectives.
Oh, yeah!
There's a number, a counter number in the top left that as soon as it turns orange, that means I can unleash a finishing attack.
All right.
Now, sometimes you just want to build up a combo as much as you want, just for style points. Other times you just want to chew through enemies and use as many finishers as you can.
On a roll now. Okay, check this out.
And if you get your combo high enough, there's a skill that lets you taunt and get like unlimited special meter energy for 20, 30 seconds. If you remember to use it.
Down they go. Woo! Yeah! And that's that.
Yes, I made it. Those words gonna miss it. Yeah, we kind of did. Yeah, I finished a little bit early, and then I just needed something to do, so I didn't have dead air for 5-10 minutes.
Here we go.
So, giving up a little preview of Out of the Shadows, which I'll be streaming Saturday.
Cowabunga! Outstanding! Booyakasha!
Yeah, so Weevil Spleen, if you got nothing to do around midnight on Saturday, I'll be streaming again.
That's right! Kusarigama style! Booyakasha! Woo! Oh, I'm taking a lot of hits.
Gonna need some more practice. Well, stick around, Weevil. We're going to be raiding into someone playing Turtles in Time. Let's see, have they started yet? Classic Spirit. Okay, yeah, looks like they started. All right, let's go say hi to Classic Spirit. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for paying attention to the Usagi Yojimbo stream and for the TMNT RPG stream. Hopefully I've inspired someone to check one or the other out. All right, there we go. All right, and thank you all for watching. Now, some Turtles in Time.